Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 28, the week of December 1st, 2023. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mads Sassy. Mads, how we doing?
What's up, everybody?
Happy post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I hope your family time wasn't too much. That's what I say to everybody after Thanksgiving.
Right. The entire day of Thanksgiving, me and my mom were basically just tag teaming cooking
Mm-hmm.
in her kitchen. Like, I just brought, like, raw supplies to her house and I was like, alright, we're gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
Bring, like, carrots and potatoes, and it was a very exhausting day of cooking. Cooking and baking and nonsense.
Right. Yeah.
For a dinner that only had, like, 4 other people at it. I told my mom, I was like, I don't know what we do if we had actual people showing up.
Well, my family, we were supposed to have like 7 to 8 people aside from my 3 sisters and my mom for Thanksgiving, but then 2 days before Thanksgiving, one of my sisters tested positive for COVID, and
Cool.
so it was just 4 of us for Thanksgiving.
Mm.
And my mom had cooked all this food. So we'd still, like, we asked the people that we were supposed to deliver food to if they still felt comfortable with us delivering food. And they were like, sure, no problem. So we went ahead and still delivered meals, but, like, it was just not what we had anticipated it being.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And for us, there would have only been, like, max 7 people if my sister and her husband had come up from Florida. So it was like, there still wouldn't have been that many people. It's still more food than anyone needs to make.
Right. I feel like that happens for everybody with Thanksgiving. I don't think I've ever heard a Thanksgiving story where someone was like, we had just the right amount of food.
Or we ran out of food.
Or we ran out of food, right.
But it was a very good Thanksgiving overall. Like I said, I made a bunch. I made, like, carrots and mashed potatoes and cookies and peanut butter fudge and Reese's bread, which was very tasty.
Oh?
Yeah, it was very good. With, like, 12 Reese cups and pancake mix and butter and milk, and it was very good. It was very good. It was very tasty. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And now I have a shit ton of it.
Yeah.
Like, I have so much shit now.
As is likely to happen.
Yeah. I have so much of it, and I learned that it is so expensive to mail anything these days. Like, I was pondering sending stuff to, like, friends of the show, Samantha Coley and Brittany Ray and Robin Jeffrey, and I was like, oh no, I can't send it to Canada because it costs $30 fucking.
Jesus Christ, that's insane.
That's nuts.
Canada shipping prices, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, and it's the problem with looking at the U.S. Postal Service as, like, oh, it's taking billions of dollars every year and it's not being profitable. It's not supposed to be profitable. It's a public fucking service.
Right.
Its job is not to turn a profit. Its job is to serve the public.
Yeah.
Like, insane.
Well, and it's like, so I had wanted this, like, special edition copy of a book I really like, but the author is British. And so you could get it it was sold in stores in Britain, but like you could get it and have it shipped to you, but like that added like $35 on top of an already expensive special edition book. Like it was like a $45-$50 book, and then you add another third, like almost the same price to ship it. It's like, okay, that's stupid and dumb. And so like my friend in Britain was like, I'll just go to the store and buy it for you. You send me the money for that, and then I'll just ship it to you. You don't have to pay me shipping. And I'm like, that's not fair. You'd still have to pay for shipping. She's like, it's so much cheaper for me to throw it in the mail and ship it to you my way versus through a store. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I ended up not doing it just because I was just like, is it really worth my money to buy this? Like, yes, I want it, but do I need it?
Right.
Not for that price. But yeah, it's just international shipping is just ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love this idea that like Canada is like it's just far away land and not right across the border. In almost everything that we do, between like United States and Canada, like it's not that far. It's just literally up there. It's just right up there. But it might as well be fucking Narnia.
Yeah. Yep.
So I will just continue to have all of the good nonsense that I have right now. And it will go to no one. Thank you, USPS, so much.
I'll just show up at your house and eat it. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure it wouldn't take that long. Just a little bit of a drive.
It's fine.
I should have just swung by and been like on my way back from Kansas. I should have just been like, yo, Drew, what's up?
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't have been that far out of the way.
No, probably not.
At that point, coming from Kansas, like you're already.
I'm already on some route going towards that direction.
But now we're getting ready. We're going into Christmas season. We're going into New Year's. So a little behind baseball for everyone. We're gonna have one more week of the podcast, and then we're doing a best a end of year episode, and then we're taking the rest of the year off. Come back first week of January.
Yeah.
Ish. So that's our plan going forward. Be sure to send us in any best TV show recommendations you all have. Just where you all are at or what you all think. What should be in consideration.
Yep.
And my list is just, it's almost perfect. It's almost there.
Meanwhile, I have sort of thought about it, but not really. I do my best work the night before.
Whereas I spend literally all year thinking about it.
Honestly, like I get to the end of the year lists for things that I like because I do writing for Telltale, so like I do end of the year list, and like I'm doing the drama list this year, and I literally was sitting there and I was like, wait, that happened this year? Wait, that was a show that occurred this like I forget 90% of the things I watch because once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And so like I don't remember it. And you would think that I'd use these apps that like help you track what you've watched. No, I don't. I just am like fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. So we will see what ends up on my list.
and this is why I keep a running list of every show I watch.
I really should, but I don't.
Let's see.
I mean, I remember the ones that I absolutely love. So like I already have probably 6 of them. off the top of my
Right.
head. It's just those final 4 for my top 10. It's just going to be like, okay,
Right.
what else aired this year?
Whereas I compulsively make like a top 20 every year. I'm like, let's go. Yeah, no. I think I'm at like 65 shows for the year.
That you've watched?
Yes, at least that I've watched at least 3 episodes of this year.
I bet if I sat down and tracked it, like maybe next weekend, I'll sit there and track everything I've watched this year, and I probably have watched around the same.
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot for my job, but I also just watch a lot because I like TV.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just a TV person. But yeah.
Well, I was thinking the other day, going through my list, like stuff I've watched this year. And I was like, it feels like the first half this year was like a lot stronger and had more stuff going on than the last half. And I was like, you don't think that could possibly have anything to do with the fact that there was a strike in the last half of the year, do you, Drew?
No, not at all.
You think that could have had any impact?
Right.
But the first half of the year was a lot stronger. Like when I go back and look at the shows that like I really liked, and I keep going back to, I was like, oh yeah, the first half, like
Absolutely, yeah.
like June and before, it's like, yeah, that's where it was happening. But that's a strike year for you.
Yeah. It is indeed. Anyways.
It is indeed. So let's talk about some news real quick. It's been a fairly light couple weeks. SAG-AFTRA is still pondering over votes and which direction it will ultimately go in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been I feel like there's been a lot of productive back and forth.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not a clear-cut right or wrong answer to this.
Right.
But that is just going as something that will continue developing. In other news, Fox released its upcoming slate for 2024. The first quarter going into the second quarter. And they're more of a slow roll than I think we've seen like in other networks. Just from what I've seen of their upcoming lineup. So on January 2nd, just from like a brief overview, it seems like Fox is really doubling down on reality shows in the coming year, which makes sense. So on January 2nd, you have Name That Tune and The Floor, which is both extremely reality. January 3rd, you have I Can See Your Voice and We Are Family, which seems to be more reality. January 7th, Grimsburg and The Great North, which is more of the Fox slate of adult animation. January 2nd, TMZ Investigates and America's Most Wanted, which is on a Monday. And not on a Saturday. I want that to sink in. This isn't like a Saturday lineup. This is prime Monday viewing.
Well, they must not have a lot going on.
They must.
I will say I did see a preview for All in the Family or whatever that reality show is that you mentioned, and it looks interesting. Like it's people related to famous people. I don't know. It seems very similar to the one that the Jonas Brothers do, but it's like with singing. I don't know. I was like, I'm intrigued. It'll probably be terrible, but I'm intrigued.
Right.
Kind of like the Masked Singer. It might be terrible, but I'm intrigued.
Right. Uh, on February 1st, there's Next Level Chef, which is um, reality cooking competition, and Farmer Wants a Wife, which,
Dude, Next Level Chef is a lot of fun to watch.
yeah,
Have you ever watched it?
I have not.
So basically, the premise is that there's a group of chefs, and they're all assigned a level of a building, whatever. So first, second, third, whatever. And there's this elevator of food that comes down. And if you're on like the basement level, so like the first level, whatever, you get whatever's left after the other levels have already gotten their food items. So like
Oh,
you have to cook with scraps, basically, and how you do determines whether or not you go up or fall back down or stay in the basement if you've already in the basement. So like
right.
it's actually a very interesting premise, and I've watched a few episodes and like been entertained. Anyways,
Anyways,
I love cooking shows.
uh, jumping all the way to March the 5th, you have the Cleaning Lady and Alert Missing Persons Unit. I like the Cleaning Lady a lot, even though I missed out on the second season.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second season, but the first season was really good.
Yeah, it's a very fun, soapy show.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Uh, March 6th, speaking of the Masked Singer comes back along with Animal Control, which I'm kind of shocked got a second season. Um, a show I enjoy, but wasn't noteworthy.
It was funny, but it wasn't like standout funny.
Right. And also Family Guy following that.
Are we really surprised? No.
No. And that's Fox's lineup.
That is interesting.
Yeah. It really seems like Fox does not have a lot to work with.
I feel like Fox and CW are kind of on the same level at this point.
Right, yeah. Because Fox doesn't really have any shows.
They used to, well, okay, they would have still had 911 if it hadn't got moved to ABC, and they still have Lone Star, but Lone Star doesn't come back till March. And
Right,
so like I'm like that's like the only like big show that Fox has on their network right now. Because as much as I think the writing for the 911 shows has continued to go down as it goes on, they are still very big, heavy audience numbers. For some reason people still watch that. So
right.
just because it's not my like it's my guilty pleasure show at this point, because I'm like, do I openly admit that I really still enjoy it even though the writing is so laughably bad? Um but
No,
yeah, like
I meant to tell you this. I was in the break room the other day, and an
yeah.
episode of 911 was playing. I don't know if it was a recent show or a rerun, um, but I just saw like the characters Buck and Eddie on screen for like 5 seconds. I was like, okay, yeah, I get this.
It's anyways.
I get it.
There was this whole scene in the most recent season where Buck's talking about a couch and needing to buy a new couch, and he's like, I don't want to buy the wrong couch this time. And then the next episode, he's bought a new couch, but he still only falls asleep on Eddie's couch. And it's like, bro, why'd you buy a couch? Also, why do you fall asleep on it in Eddie's house? Like, what's going on here, bro? What's going on? But yeah, like I get it. Some guys are best friends and they have that relationship where they hang out with each other all the time. But like when you're hanging out with his kid too, like, and you're being domestic, that's pushing it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was like, oh, okay. I can see the chemistry here. I can see the.
They're the only reason I still watch the show. Well, them and Peter Krause. I mean, I just highly enjoy Peter Krause and Angela Bassett. So like
Right.
I'll stick around for Buck and Eddie and Bobby and Athena, and that's it. Bobby and Athena, a couple goals. Oh, but anyways.
But yeah, I think that was the only news I had.
I will say we mentioned this show last week when we were talking about the lineup or not last week, but the last episode when we were talking about the lineup for ABC and CBS, and Blue Bloods has announced that they are finally ending after this coming season.
Right. Yes.
I was like, this show should have ended with season 10, but like we kept going. Well, it's going to end with season 14, so I guess we're doing a Supernatural basically.
Better late than never.
Listen, I will still watch the show because I do enjoy it. It's one of those situations of it's still enjoyable, but it definitely has gone past when it should have ended.
Right.
There's only so much you can do with cops and a family without getting into, okay, we've already done that before.
Right.
Anyways. But yeah, I think that's all the news that I have as well.
Yeah, we're getting to that part of the year. Everyone's saving their news till January.
Yeah.
There's Juliana Margulies behaving like a crazy person. But we don't need to talk about that.
I don't even know what you're talking about, so now I'm gonna have to go Google this when we get off the podcast.
Oh my god, it's a whole fucking mess. Let's just end this by saying, Team Archie Punjabi, once and for all. Like,
oh, jeez. Oh, I feel like this is gonna be very fun.
Yeah.
When I finally do research.
It won't take you long.
Oh, well, okay, the first headline I see is apologizing for saying black people have been brainwashed to hate Jews.
Yep, there it is.
Wow. Okay, anyways, moving on. I will dive deeper after the show.
Yeah.
Not on my bingo card for this year.
Let's just make this succinct and say that, like, when everyone was wondering what happened between Juliana Margulies and Archie Punjabi on The Good Wife, we don't need to wonder that anymore.
Nope. No, we do not. Wow. Oh, and she tied in the LGBTQ community. Wow. She's really going for it.
Yep.
All right. I need to stop looking. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. All right. Let's go. I will deep dive and then I'll message you later. Be like, oh my God.
Oh my God. So let's move on into the GOAT. So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them up against each other on a poll on Twitter and TikTok. Last week, I nominated... who did I nominate last week?
Hilda, I think?
I did, yeah. Let's see, pull it up. I nominated Hilda Season 1, Episode 2, The Midnight Giant, and you nominated ER Season 8, Episode 21, On the Beach. You won last week, but let's take a moment real quick and just mention that Asif Manvi fucking duetted our video on TikTok of this and
approved of what I was saying and approved of what I was saying about Ben. Thank you. My life is complete. Oh, I sent that video to my closest friend who's doesn't even watch the show. And she's like, I'm going to assume that this guy duetting is the person you're talking about, and that is the coolest fucking thing ever. And I go, it's exactly who that is.
That's crazy.
I was just like, oh my God, this is insane. How did he find our video?
I think he just looks... Because I've seen other stuff from him that, like, he does the same thing. I think he just looks through, hashtags himself, I think he just gets alerted to hashtags of himself.
Whatever rocks his boat. It was still really cool though, because like he reacted so well to it. Like I was just like, oh yeah, he's thinking about what I'm saying. He's
Yeah.
he's got it. He's down.
Crazy.
Insane. I I I get bragging rights for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you should automatically win that round retroactively, but that's not the
It's
way
all
the game
good.
works.
It's all good.
No, I was on TikTok that day just and looking at this video and just hysterically laughing as I'm watching. It's just like, what is happening here?
And I was like, I could have been so much more eloquent about what I was saying about Ben. And like, he's reacting like, yeah, no, this sounds perfect. I'm like, bro, I totally stumbled over everything I said, but okay.
Fucking incredible. Um,
I wanted to comment on his duet and be like, hi, I'm the person that was talking. You just made me die and come back to life. Thank you.
oh.
Anyways.
So since I lost last week, I get to go first in my new submission for the GOAT. So since the 10-year anniversary of Steven Universe was fairly recent, I think in the last 2 or 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that a little bit, and I've already nominated one Steven Universe episode. So I was thinking about like the best character, which did not take long because it's absurdly obvious. And that is Pearl, voiced by Dee Magno-Ha, who is just every bit of emotion from the show, just like wrapped up into like this ball of neuroses.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's just a fantastic character. And really encapsulate like the larger theme of the show, which is that like there's no real statute of limitations on emotional trauma or like unresolved emotional feelings. It just stays with you forever and ever until you decide to deal with it. And just the way her arc plays out throughout the show, dealing with like Steven and the memory of Steven's mom and the fallout of that, and having to be a mom to this kid whose mom picked like a whole other dude besides you, and then having to raise that child, pretty much, and being like the surrogate mother. There's so much strong emotionality just baked into her. Which like I nominated Mr. Greg previously, but like so much Mr. Greg in regards to that character is just so potent. So yeah, that's my pick for this week. I could really get into the weeds on this one, but yeah, that's my pick. Pearl from Steven Universe.
All right. Well, so I have been away from my house for 3 months visiting my mother. I came back and my roommate handed me a gift for a belated birthday gift, and it was the coolest Star Wars nerdy gift I could ever get. So it had me rewatching Obi-Wan Kenobi. And my favorite episode from that series is Obi-Wan Kenobi season 1 episode 3, which is titled Part 3. And the reason that episode really sticks out to me as a fan, as a viewer, is that here is Obi-Wan Kenobi 10 years after the Battle of Mustafar, and he's dragging around Leia trying to keep her safe, and he comes face to face with the man that used to be his Padawan. And it's the first time he's seen him. It's when he really realizes that Anakin didn't actually die on Mustafar, that he became this disastrous Sith Lord. And they have that face to face battle, and Anakin gets one up on Obi-Wan because from all of his trauma and the tragedy that happened between the two of them, Obi-Wan still can't be himself around Vader. And so like that whole battle is, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of Obi-Wan is this great Jedi Knight, it's kind of disappointing. But if you look at it from the standpoint of here is Obi-Wan who has been betrayed by the person in front of him, and he still can't find it in himself to be angry or vengeful or hurtful towards that person. And so it ends up coming to his detriment. He hesitates. Anakin drags him through flames. They have these they have these heated discussion about what happened, and Obi-Wan says to him, who have you become? And Anakin Vader replies, I became what you made me. And an iconic battle sequence. It's a very emotionally heavy episode and moment. And honestly, out of I believe it was 6 episodes of the series, it was the best episode because it really tied together how Obi-Wan has evolved from Mustafar and how he still carries it with him. And it's always great to see, Obi-Wan and Vader come up against each other. So my pick this week is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Season 1, Episode 3, Part 3.
Well, I'm sure that TikTok will take this pick as charitably as it did the last time you picked Obi-Wan.
Listen, I will always pick Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi is my comfort character numero uno. Like, it will be all end all character.
Sure, everyone will be totally chill and normal about this.
I will say some people might be okay with this pick just because like people do like Obi-Wan Kenobi Vader fights, but it's also it depends on the mood of the day, because sometimes people like it and sometimes people just hate it.
Yep. So you can go vote for these on Twitter, TikTok. You'll have 2 days to vote once the poll goes up, and be sure to like and share these on whatever social platforms you are using. So without further ado, let's move on into our TV lineup for the week.
Young lemon hope, born from candy and glue, creator of beauty and ugliness too. Poor lemon hope, I found you in the dark. You lived in the bathroom, now live in our hearts. Sweet lemon hope.
So our first show for this week is continuing our Adventure Time rewatch with Season 5, Episode 48, Betty, Season 5, Episode 1551, Lemon Hope, and Episode 52, Billy's Bucket List. This is rounding out Season 5, finally. So let's start with Betty, which is really setting up big things. With Ice King temporarily losing his powers and also bringing Betty into the main timeline.
Yeah. It was interesting to see him lose his powers and then go back to being young Simon and like opening that portal. Like the portal thing was really fun. Like it was fun to see that portal and stuff. I don't know. I love time travel. I'll end it there. I love time travel.
Well, and it does make it a really good closed loop time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, like putting a pin on, like, yeah, this is why Ice King never found Betty again. This is why Simon / Ice King never found Betty, because she wasn't there anymore.
She had been pulled into the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like well enough Lena Dunham here. She'll eventually be recast by Felicia Day, who I think has a much stronger grasp on the character.
Listen, I don't like Lena Dunham at all, so I'm happy with that recasting news. So thank you for telling me that.
Dunham does well enough here. Even though I think she lacks a lot of like the energy that Betty should have.
Mm-hmm.
Because like fundamentally, she is a character who gets dragged into the future and automatically decides to go punch a witch.
Yeah. She's like, what am I gonna do first? I'm gonna punch a witch.
I'm gonna punch a not witch, anti-witch, whatever.
I'm gonna punch somebody.
I'll punch the thing. But I also do really enjoy seeing Simon having to interact with like this world. And again, punching Ash in the face.
Yep.
Very, very enjoyable. And seeing him like go into like the Ice Kingdom, and also seeing like the Ice Kingdom start to thaw without the Ice King's powers. Without the powers of the crown.
Mm-hmm.
Was like a really fun detail in that.
Yeah.
Plus, and I like how Gunther reacts to Simon too. I'm like, oh yeah, this is still my guy.
Yeah. I didn't even think about Gunther in terms when like he became Simon again. I wasn't even thinking about Gunther, but then there was the scene with Gunther and I was just like, that's adorable. That's cute. He's still it's kind of like the idea that, like, you know, for example, I left my house for 3 months and the puppy didn't see me for 3 months, and I was like, that dog's not gonna like care that I come back. He's not even gonna remember who I am. No, he remembered.
Yeah.
He was just like, hey, hi, you're back. Oh my god, I missed you. Let me tell you everything that happened. In his own puppy speak, obviously, because he doesn't talk, but yeah. But I knew that's kind of what he was getting at, because he was like jumping all around and like trying to show me stuff. Like, it was funny. He was like, look, we have 2 new cats. And I'm just like, I'm good, thanks. And the cats were like, we're good, bye. But yeah, no, it was I like Gunther, so like anytime Gunther has his moment, I'm just like, hi Gunther.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see more of Betty as we go along.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and she comes into the forefront really strongly. But spoilers.
Also, I love that, like, when he became Simon again, he put on his glasses and then like he found that picture of Marceline. He goes, oh, Marceline, and then like he contacts Marceline and she just immediately leaves her band practice and was like, oh, sorry guys, I gotta go, and just like leaves.
Just bounces. Yeah. Well, let's talk about Hambo for a second. We're like, Marceline went through like so much effort to get Hambo back, and then just sacrificed him, which like is a really strong testament to like how much she really cares about Simon.
Right, because I was like, because it's Simon. She would do anything for Simon because Simon took care of her. Simon was her her rock, as she was growing up. Like they have a very close bond, and like you said, it really shows how deep that bond goes that she's willing to give up this thing that she just got back.
Right. Well, and if you really like take it along the line of like these are just like a series of sacrifices where like Bubblegum sacrifice, I mean essentially sacrifice like the safety of her kingdom so that Marceline could have Hambo, and then Marceline's giving up this really strong sentimental thing in her life for Simon, and Simon is sacrificing like that thing for just the possibility of saying hi to Betty again or saying goodbye to Betty.
Mm-hmm. She's like, Betty, I've come through this portal to tell you goodbye. Why are you telling me goodbye? She's like, I'm coming with you. Oh, Betty.
Oh, Betty.
But
yeah, it's a really good building block episode and also like mythological episode.
Yeah, I feel like we're really, as we, here we are towards the end of season 5. I feel like, without realizing it, we've learned so much about Marceline and the Ice King. And then, like, this episode, like, really pulls it all into focus for us. It's like,
yes,
here's everything you have learned about these characters. Now, bam, here they are right in front of you.
Right.
And it's really beautiful to see that growth and that bond come to fruition to help Simon get a piece of what he's missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is his love, Betty.
Yeah. I'm not sure the very end of the episode tracks very much of Ice King kidnapping Muscle Princess, because like kidnapping princesses isn't so much what Ice King does at this point.
Right. Yeah.
But I get it as serving as like a funhouse mirror for Betty,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like this is the thing that he's become.
Yeah.
To really make her understand like what the stakes are, and like finding a way to get Ice King back to Simon.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Lemon Hope, which is the two-parter here. And the thing I really like about Lemon Hope, and a lot of people have said this in the past, is that the way that it is so much of a like, in terms of like formula, a weird story.
Mm-hmm.
Like really kind of bucks a lot of like standard Adventure Time practices of like the way that it tells a story and the way that it executes, and just things that we are used to from Adventure Time.
Yeah, and this is something that like really like hit in my brain, and I know it's probably super minor in the grand scheme of what these episodes were about in general. But the last time we saw Lemon Hope, his voice was very childlike, very sweet. It wasn't that obnoxiously octane voice that we know from Lemon Grab. And now all of a sudden he's starting to get that voice, and he's starting to turn into that kind of person, I guess, if you want to call it that. And so like I found that interesting, that the change in voice like kind of gives you an idea of where he's at mentally now. Like he's not the same hopeful child that we saw when he escaped.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and this is all an episode about like tackling like really big questions about like freedom and what does it mean to be free, and what responsibility does your freedom hold to other people?
Right.
And so I do like that in conjunction with like Lemon Hope's voice, and like as someone who has like been sitting with these questions for a while and has been having that sit on his mind and really pondering about like, yeah, he's free now. Yeah, he doesn't have to care about any of this. He can just be free.
And yeah, and he even says to Princess Bubblegum, he's like, I don't care. Why am I supposed to care? Like, I can do what I want. And it's just like, well, yes, to an extent, but you can't be completely complacent about everything else around you.
Yeah.
And he has to learn that. And like that's what these episodes do, is they take him on that journey to discover, oh, okay, I need to take it in stride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a big part of this episode that I think is interesting is there's a lot of talk about like pacts and treaties with Lemongrab that is literally never brought up before and never mentioned again. But in this episode is extremely important, and is noted by like two different characters of like, oh yeah, we can't really do shit. Which I think is interesting, and the character Flannel Boxing Day kind of confounds me. The more times I watch Adventure Time, because I was like, I don't get this dude's deal. You know, like I don't. Why are you so connected into this? Why do you know so much about? Why do you know so much about Lemongrab politics? Like, why do you know the thing that Princess Bubblegum knows? And I don't have an answer for that.
I feel like those kinds of questions come up, like that particular question comes up every once in a while with this show. It's like, why do you know all this? How do you know all this? Never mind. I'm not going to think about it too much. Just let it go.
Like, who are you? Well, we should continue to note that Justin Roiland, who does multiple voices in this episode, including Lemon Hope and Lemongrab, is a monumental creep and should not work. But here he is, and I cannot separate one without the other. So
right,
it is what it is.
I will say the scene where Bubblegum gives Lemon Hope 2 cupcakes in the hopes that like she'll convince him to like share with Finn. I was with Lemon Hope. I will eat both of those cupcakes. He can go find his own.
Well, I love that Bubblegum is advocating for like a form of socialism.
But literally, he was like, "Why do I have to share? He can go find his own." I'm like, that is a mood. That is such a mood. Do not give me food and then tell me I have to share it with somebody else that is quite capable of going and getting their own.
Well, I was actually thinking about this because, like, if Bubblegum is advocating for socialism, do all of her citizens, like, is her Candy Kingdom like a socialist utopia? Because like we still see like Root Beer Guy having like a normal 9-to-5 job.
Oh, you raise a fair point.
So it's like Is he?
Do they go to work? Do they go to work just to have something to do, or do they go to work because they need money?
Yeah, what's the deal? Because you're both. It seems like Bubblegum's world operates both under like socialism and capitalism in ways that maybe don't make sense.
Yeah.
So I like what's Bubblegum's platform? What's what does Bubblegum's party consist of?
Yeah.
I have questions.
Right.
So let's move to the last episode here, which is Billy's bucket list, which is finally dealing with the death of Billy a full season later.
Listen, the scene with Billy in the sky as part of the stars and Finn below talking to him, I got major Lion King vibes.
Oh yeah.
Major Lion King vibes.
Which is almost certainly what they're what the point is.
Well, I'm sure that's what it was, but I just loved it because Finn was like, "What was the thing you said you needed to tell me? Was that the thing?" And he's like, "No," and then he just like disappears, and he's like, Finn's like, "But what was the thing?" He's like, "Oh yeah, your dad." Like it's not some big like revelatory thing. Like, oh, no big deal. Your dad is this person and he's this place. Like,
right.
I know that's not the bulk of the episode. That was like the last 5 minutes, but like I don't know, that's what stuck out the most to me from this episode was that interaction between Star, Billy, and Finn. I was the kid that watched Lion King on a loop, okay? And then you wonder why Hamlet is my favorite Shakespearean play.
I'm not sure I've ever wondered that, but
well, no, but I'm like, as an adult, I'm like, why is Hamlet my favorite? And I'm like, well, it's funny that like these movies that I loved as a kid without knowing what Shakespeare was are very reminiscent of Shakespeare. Anyways, totally off topic.
But I like the beginning of this episode of almost like a part 2 to like the vault of like, oh yeah, this is what it looks like when Finn's vault just gets like punched open for a second.
Yeah.
Because like there's a way of looking at this entire season of Finn actively not thinking about Billy and just like not putting any amount of thought into like the fact that his friend was killed and possessed by the Lich, which I'm not sure any of us really fully appreciated. Well, what a dark thing that is.
I wonder if like you could look at it from the standpoint of he just threw that in a box and didn't want to think about it, and then it got opened.
Right. Well, and like this entire season of like things just keep happening to him, like everything that happened with like Flame Princess and PB and James and like sand just kept getting piled on the box.
Yeah.
Until someone was like, "Hey, you remember this box?" Which does feel like it feels very reminiscent of like being a teenager, and something happens to you when you're a teenager, and you're like, "I'll deal with that later."
Yeah.
And then it's years later, and you're like, "Oh no, I didn't deal with this."
You mean like me, who like dealt with some stuff in my childhood and then just like pushed it down, and now I'm a grown ass adult having to deal with it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Television does have its merits.
Yep.
It says, "Hey, look, I see you."
But I do like the episode spending time with Billy's ex-girlfriend, who is just possibly the coolest person who's ever lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just very awesome. And this this episode apparently being just like, hey, we got Mark Hamill. Can we just do like a bunch of stuff with
Yeah, we need to use him.
we need to use him like a lot. So like there's like 2 or 3 different like voice roles for Mark Hamill in this episode. First was like King of the Fairies, and then the Fear Feaster. Who had like 1 episode in the first season. Basically about the same thing, about the fact that Finn is scared of the ocean.
Yeah.
Finn's my guy.
I mean, he should
scared
be.
of the ocean. You should, as you should. It's as well you fucking should.
Yep.
Yeah, don't go fucking with the ocean.
Nope. We don't mess with the ocean.
Don't mess with the ocean. But yeah, it's really fun. Like,
it was a nice way to close out Billy. It really was.
Yeah, it was. And also propel us into the next part of the story with Finn's dad.
Yeah.
Finn's bio dad.
I'm intrigued to learn more.
Yeah. I'm going to warn you now. The first 2 episodes of season 6 are a lot.
Okay.
So.
Fantastic.
They're just kind of a gut punch.
Okay.
So for next week, and this is actually a really good way to close out the year for us.
Okay. A gut punch. Cool.
Yeah, a gut punch. With season 6, episode 1, Wake Up, episode 2, Escape from the Citadel, and episode 4, The Tower.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're getting, next season has some really, it's got some really good stuff. So let's move on to our next show, which is Dimension 20, Season 1, Episode 9, Dishing with a Demon. So I feel like we have to begin with Fig, what are you doing?
Yeah, this whole episode, I was just like, guys, what are you doing? Fig, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
But also, like, I feel like just everybody, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Fig, for so many reasons, what are you doing?
But also, after this episode, I just want to give Kristen the biggest hug and be like, it's okay to have the biggest crisis of faith of your life.
Of your life, yeah.
It's okay. I know you think your whole life is a lie right now, but we love you.
Yeah. So I really appreciate the beginning of this episode of Brennan staying in Gorthlak's voice for a good 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Solid.
It was a good half-hour chunk.
And then switches. Like, switches to, like, I can't remember what the voice was, but like a much more high-pitched voice.
Was it the ice cream guy?
Possibly.
Because didn't they go out because they were talking with Gorthlax, they went out for ice cream, and then after
I remember.
At one point they have a conversation with the ice cream guy.
I remember because he goes. It went from Gorthlax to high-pitched rat voice.
Oh, the rat voice. That's right.
Which is just so impressive.
Right. Yeah.
Like, on a vocal level, just so impressive.
Yeah. I was not. I mean, it makes sense that the rat has that high pitched of a voice, but that was not what I was expecting.
But like for Brennan to be able to switch between those so effortlessly, yeah, just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, like what you were saying a minute ago, like everyone is speaking far too candidly around the demon.
Yeah, everyone, what are you doing? Like you know how like the last episode I was talking about how I like was very proud of them because they were like making smarter decisions and they were working as a team. And this episode I was like, you guys have forgotten everything you just learned. Like, this man is a demon.
That is a demon.
You cannot trust him. Why are you telling him everything?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And even at one point, they're trying to be like, should we be telling him stuff? And it's like, no, just shut up and walk away. Like, I understand, Fig, that you want to know Daddy Dearest, but like, you can just shut up and walk away and have a conversation with him one-on-one later on. Because you guys, as a group, need to talk about stuff. And he is conniving, and we'll find out what you're trying to talk about, even when you're talking in code. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, well, the thing I like about that exchange is everyone else trying to find a way around the demon, and Brendan goes, "No, we have to." I'm demon. I'm very powerful. We're not getting around the demon right now.
And it's funny because like there was one point where the demon accidentally intercepted a thing, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, "No, you're not." I've reached that point where I'm like interacting with the episodes as they're playing. I'm like, don't lie. We've reached it. Yeah. There's my point.
Yeah. Let's talk about everything that happened at the hospital, though.
Jesus, I almost forgot about the hospital.
This is primarily what I meant with Fig, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, Fig, what are you doing? Like, you're performing surgery. Like, what are you doing?
I love every minute of Fig slipping into like a Grey's Anatomy plot.
and Riz just going along with it. He's just like, sure, sounds fun. Let's do it. Everyone else is like, no, I'm gonna stay out here because that sounds dangerous and stupid. And Riz and Fig are like, nah, let's just do it.
Let's just do it. Like this is Fig in her element. Like, yeah. This is Fig in just like full barred, like just nonsense bullshit. And oh, it's just so good.
It really is. And they're like, just her trying to figure out how she can accomplish what she's supposed to know how to do is just hilarious. He's like, wait, what spells can I use to get around this?
And I like how Brennan and Emily keep on like trying to one up each other throughout this entire exchange. Of like, like there's one moment in particular where Brennan's like, "Damn it, Doctor, you do too much," and Emily is just like at that energy. She's just like meeting it every step of the way.
Yeah. It's so great. And it not relate, like it's part of the hospital, but like it's not like the surgery part, but like there's the interaction between Riz and Biz, and Biz is like, you're like my best friend, and Riz is like, yeah, you're a friend.
Mm-hmm.
I feel Biz on an existential level, like trying so hard to be friends with people and then being like, I fucking hate people. Like, people suck. Like,
Well, well, speaking of Biz, like the interaction with Shelford
mm-hmm.
and reading his mind, one of the most tragically sad pieces of dialogue
Oh,
I think I've ever
Shelford,
heard.
you're just like, buddy, there is more to the universe than, okay, no, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just so one track minded and depressed and like,
He's so sad.
I don't care. He's to the point he doesn't care anymore, which is so sad.
It's yeah. But yeah, like I love that Brennan just like found that. He's like, hey, here's this thing that I like almost like a headcanon that he had of this that I don't know that he ever like intended on using. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, here's this thing that's just been living in my mind. Enjoy. But yeah, it's just gutting. Like every second of that is just utterly gutting.
It was very. I was having a bad mental week, and I was like, "This doesn't help. Like,
No.
this doesn't help my mental health. Thank you, Dimension 20,
Please go see a
Brennan.
therapist, my friend.
Brennan, you need a therapist."
Oh.
But it's going back to, basically towards the end with Kristen finding, like, realizing that, like, her family is like part of this, either part of this group that's terrible, or like at least knows of this group, like the Harvestmen, like just that whole revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I want to give Kristen the biggest hug and be like, I understand your religious trauma.
Right. It does feel similar to like when I was in church and like being aware of like these groups that like feel very cool and normal when like you're in it, and then like everyone on the outside's like, those people are freaks. You get those people are freaks, right? Like
Right.
certain like sects of like Christianity of like, yeah, those people are weirdos, and you
it's
have to
it's
know
very
they're
much
weirdos, right?
it's very much being unable to see the forest through the trees. Like,
Yeah,
you're so centered in your religion that you don't realize that these extremist groups are extremist groups. And you're like, oh no, that was just a fun time. We went to that harvest festival with these people. Like, they're cool, they're chill. And then you like look at it from an outsider perspective and you're like, oh, actually, no, they're not.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, like,
No,
and for her as, like, a young woman, she's like, that it's that initial it's that the the continuation of the breakdown of what she knew and thought was the most stable thing in her entire life.
right. Yeah,
And now she's just like, oh, nothing makes sense anymore. Like, it's it's going to be interesting going forward, cuz especially knowing that, like, all the stuff that they learned from Gorthlax about Johnny Spells, and like all the stuff he was doing for Gorthlax, and that page that they dealt with when they fought the corn cuties, like just all of this stuff, like just piling up in the span of one episode for her. Like, poor Kristen.
yeah, yeah,
You've got a lot on your plate.
yeah. And this episode in general does a lot of really good mythos building.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that entire conversation with Gorthlax somehow doesn't feel like an info dump,
No.
which is pretty spectacular.
Yeah,
Given the
considering
amount
when
of
you look at
information it's given.
right, when you look at like everything that you learn in that 30 minutes, you're like, how was that not an info dump? But it didn't feel like an info dump because the way they did the conversation felt very natural and two-way.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but
and there were so many like digressions and like dips and valleys in that talk. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm following everything.
right, and it wasn't just Gorthlax speaking only about what Kristen was asking him. Like he was fielding questions from everybody and like giving information in little snippets here and there.
Mhm.
And so like I think that's why it didn't feel so demanding on our brains. Like we were just like, "Oh, okay, cool. There's a little information. Here's a little information. Let's go back over here and get that information."
Mhm.
It just didn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and again, next week we have another battle episode. Finally taking on the coach.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I kind of saw that coming from the beginning.
yeah, they don't really couch that one.
I was like, he's a little involved. He seems to show up everywhere. Let's keep an eye on him.
Yeah. They didn't really lampshade that reveal.
But also somehow the kids just did not see it coming. I'm like, how did you not see this coming?
Yeah, and similar to Adventure Time, this is like next week is a really good like cutting off point for the year.
Awesome,
especially for this season, Fantasy High, because it makes like a very good like halfway point.
We're only halfway.
We're rough. We're a little more than halfway.
Oh, okay.
There's 18 episodes, I think. So we're like
okay,
right
so
over that.
So this week was halfway. Okay, cool. Cool.
So let's continue on to our next show, which is Bob's Burgers, season 14, episode 8, entitled "Worf Me Worry." Which again, it's a very fun Bob's Burgers episode. Getting to spend time with Bob's dad as he takes the kids to the carnival.
I love when he hands the money to the kids and he goes, "Do not come back with any of this money." And it's just like most of the time, I remember like as a kid, like my grandfather would hand me $10 and he would jokingly go, "Don't spend it all in one place." But like this was like the exact opposite of this. He was like encouraging them to basically go do whatever the hell they wanted with this money as long as they spent every dime of it.
Yeah. and knowing Louise, she probably pilfered some of that. But yeah, this is just such a fun episode. Getting more on like Bob's dad and the kind of the fatalism he has, and always telling Bob about it is very funny. And also of the moment of like, oh yeah, the entire world's like on fire. You know that, right? Entire world.
Also, just them all getting stuck in that. What was that? The box thing? What I was just like, there is no comprehensive way that all of them are fitting in that small space. Like,
no.
Again, I was thinking way too logically for a television show, but I was just like, there's no way that many people fit in that small space.
Yeah. And I appreciate the show detailing just how much the wharf is just falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should not go on any of those rides.
No.
Ever. You might actually you would instantly die.
Yeah. I honestly, it's one of the it made me think of a horror film. Like it kind of like you get horror vibes from it, and it's like this is this is not a fun family outing location. What are you doing here?
But I also enjoyed the B plot of the episode with Linda trying to get Teddy to just take a normal photo.
Yeah.
Which I deeply related to because I'm infamous in my family for just, I can't take a picture. I just can't do it. I can't. It's like that episode of Friends where Chandler can't smile in front of a camera.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I just can't. I don't know what
That used to be me as a kid too. Like my mom used to call it my toothpaste smile. And because like every year for school pictures, they'd be like, 1, 2, 3 cheese, and I'd be like cheese, and I'd show all my teeth, and I wouldn't be smiling, and my mom's like, "Can you just smile normal for once in your life?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not happy when I'm taking this photo. Why would I be smiling?" And she's like, "Okay, fine." Like she eventually just gave up, but like yeah, I used to struggle so hard with smiling with photos.
Yeah. My sister has started tickling me and making me laugh right before we have to take a photo.
That's a way to get around it.
There's a way, yeah. It is apparently the only way. Like she'll just like poke me in the side or tell some dumb joke, and I'll be like, okay, this is it. Yeah, okay.
Ugh. But yeah, it was a very relatable thing to watch. And like that moment where she gets him to smile because he took a bite of the cheeseburger and he just really liked the cheeseburger. I get that on such a level because even now as an adult, like I try to take a selfie or something and I'm like, I have to genuinely be in a good mood for my selfies to come out looking decent. Otherwise, they look terrible because I'm like, yeah, I'm smiling, but I'm dead inside. Like, and like you can tell I'm dead inside. There's no like faking that smile. Like it's just like whatever. But like if I were to have just eaten a piece of bacon and taken a photo, yeah, then I would have a genuine smile on my face. So I get you. I get you.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, a very fun Bob's Burgers episode. So let's move on to our next show. Ghosts UK, season 1, episodes 3 through 6. Happy Death Day, Free Pass, Mooniston, and Getting Out. And this is pretty much like that's season 1 for her. In a nutshell.
Yeah.
We're done. But I did check CBS, and they're apparently just gonna keep on putting out these ghost episodes.
Which is fine. I'm starting to like I'm definitely like seeing similarities between it and the CBS version. But like you're also starting to see elements that are different. And one of them is I think we talked about this last time. There's just too many ghosts.
Yeah, there's too many ghosts.
There's too many ghosts and I'm like I kind of get it, but like get rid of like half of these guys and we would have a really great show. Like some of them we don't need. But I will say in these episodes I'm starting to see why my friend that has seen the UK version has said that I would love Thomas. Because he's ridiculous, but in the best way. Um the episode where where they've allowed a film crew to come into the house and like film a TV show or movie or whatever. And the guy is playing a version of Byron and Thomas knows Byron from his own life and so like he's like having a conniption fit about it and he's also trying to write a letter to Allison or a poem to Allison because he's in love with her or whatever. It's just the writer in me is just tickled by all of it. Like I found it just so funny and it's probably my favorite episode of the ones that of this group of episodes. Like, that was probably my favorite one. It was just so funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm just gonna go drown myself in the lake. And at the end of the episode, the other ghosts were like, should we tell Thomas that they're gone? And then you see Thomas drowning himself in the lake, and I'm just like, this guy. He literally went to the lake to drown himself.
Well, I love his line of like, now he's to steal the woman of my dreams. And he's like, I have a lot of dreams. Most of them just happen to be women.
I also love the moment where he has this, where the one of the crew comes in, he's on the phone and he's like picking his nose or whatever, and Thomas is clearly utterly disturbed by this, but also he's saying to the guy like, go find your own sulking spot, this is mine. And it's just so funny. Like, dude, he can't hear you. I adore. I'm like, Thomas, I understand your over dramatic tantrums. Like, I get it. Like, sometimes you just need to have a good hissy fit about the woman you love being enamored by a man who's actually in the real world, not in the ghost world.
Yeah. Yeah, but to go back to what you were saying about like the number of ghosts that are in this show, there's a headless ghost that they forget about 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Like I think I've seen him twice. And it's like, yeah, no, these are too many. Like, you can definitely see like Thomas and the captain got like kind of consolidated into like the same character for the CBS version.
Yep.
And you're like, yep. That was the right choice. That was
that was the right choice.
That was the right choice. We need to get rid of these guys.
And I'm glad they got rid of the headless ghost in the CBS version, because I'm like, he serves no real purpose except for like humor fodder in the background, like, because his body and his head are two separate ghosts.
Yeah.
So like the body's moving around and the head's like, yo, over here. Oh, right, you can't hear me. Like, it's funny but also unnecessary. Like,
right. And I think part of the problem is that only half the problem is that like there are too many ghosts. The other problem is that they aren't distinct enough.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's something that the CBS version solved, where it's like there were so many different types of people in the CBS version of like an indigenous character or a stoned hippie or you know, more of like these variations. And here it just kind of feels like a different spin on like the same characters, of like
so it's same character, different font, and different time period, basically. Like, you have your distinctive one, so like there's the prime minister, he's clearly a distinctively different type of character. There's Robin, who is very much his own element to the show, but like, you have Thomas the general and the headless guy. Like, they could have all been combined into one character and it would have been fine. The dirty female, I don't even know all their names. That's the other problem I have. I'm like, I don't know all your names. The woman that was jumping out the window all the time, and then the dirty woman, them two could be combined into one character. Like,
right.
They're not distinct enough female characters to matter. And then there's what is the girl that is the equivalent of oh my god, why am I like blanking? Victorian African American ghost.
Yeah.
But she like The fact that she knows nothing about sex is hilarious too. Like that added to that episode too. But that's sidetrack. But yeah, there, like you said, it's same character, different fonts, and so we could have had some of these characters distinguished into or combined into one, or just gotten rid of them completely, and it wouldn't have detracted from the story at all.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. And it becomes one of those issues that we have with ensemble shows all the time as well, is that like there's not enough time to give enough attention to each character.
Right.
And so the more we have, the more polluted the story gets and the less strong it is.
Right. And like I feel like the CBS version was really strong at this, where like by like halfway of the season I feel like I knew those characters really well. And maybe it's just, you know, by the nature of like this version not having as many episodes, or not as much time, but it's like, yeah, like it doesn't feel like there's a lot of space reserved for like these characters.
Yeah.
Like I thought this especially with like the Happy Death Day episode. Where it's like, we didn't deal with this at all. Like, the main plot with, like, the ghost is like, we didn't deal with this at all, really. Like, it felt like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's like, I think where I'm at right now is that I prefer the CBS version as opposed to this one, because it just feels like a stronger iteration of what the show should be.
It does a better job of distinguishing the different generations of ghosts. And it also has a stronger character arc for each of these ghosts, somehow combined into these small episodes. So like, you know, with the only character between the two that I think feels about the same between the two shows is Pat and Pete. Like I feel like he is Pete in the CBS version is note for note Pat from the UK version. And that's it can be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, however you want to look at it, but like he's a distinguished enough character that you're like, okay, great. I recognize this character. I know him because he is note for note the character I already know. But they're trying to... The CBS version did a great job of saying, okay, here's these characters that exist. How do we make them stronger? And they did a good job of doing that.
Right, because it started with like broad archetypes. And then slowly became like more specific over time.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how if the gaps between like the comparison / differences gets bigger.
Right.
Or if it stays about where it's at right now, which is probably about 50-50.
Right, yeah. So let's move on to our next show. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. Season 1. The first 3 episodes of this are out. I've watched all 3.
I watched 2 of the 3. It could have also just been... here's the thing. Godzilla's not really my thing, but it's more than just about Godzilla. Like, this show's definitely obviously way more than just the big monster. But I think I was just having a really bad brain week that I was just like, after 2 episodes, I was like, I can't even watch any more of this. I can't do it. So, who knows? Maybe I will be fine with it next week. I will say, I was not expecting the John Goodman jump scare at the beginning of the first episode. I was was like, John Goodman, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
It was
I
nice.
almost forgot that John Goodman was in Kong Skull Island.
Okay.
I was like, okay, yes.
I've not seen that, so I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, because they part of the whole Godzilla versus King Kong thing.
Okay.
But as opposed to you, I am very much into Godzilla. Like when I was a kid, I think I had watched every Godzilla thing that had been made up through the 90s. Like I was ravenous for it. So like, and I've watched a bunch of Godzilla into my adult years. So I love Godzilla. I have a Godzilla shirt that I wore today. I'm really into it. I don't know if you've ever seen like the first Godzilla, like the original Godzilla. It is so funny to like compare that to like what our incarnation is of like a Godzilla property today. Because it's so like very like an introspective criticism of like post World War II nuclear age and the way that affected Japan. And very seldomly featured Godzilla. It's a great movie. But that's all to say. Very much in the bag for Godzilla. I'm very much here for whatever they're doing with Monarch in general.
It's intriguing. I will say that. Like, it is intriguing. Like, I'm vaguely interested to be like, okay, where does this go? But I don't know. Like, I'm not connected or whatever to any of these characters. I'm like, it's whatever. These characters are okay. And again, I think it's just that I don't know how I don't know how to say this because like I do enjoy things with fantastical creatures and things like that. So like I can't be like, "Oh no, I just don't like big creature stuff." I don't know what it is about Godzilla that I'm just like, whatever. It's a big lizard. It's a big lizard, like whatever. But like I was very intrigued with the first episode because like, the girl shows up in Japan to settle things about her father's death, and she finds out that her father led a double life, and I'm like, this is interesting, where's this going? And then it like started doing flashbacks and stuff, and I was trying to keep up with who is who, what is this flashback, like who is this person in the flashback. And then you get back to modern and she's looking at a photo with her half brother, and she's like, why do you have a picture of my grandmother, blah blah blah. And it's just like, oh, okay, so the woman from the flashbacks is the grandmother. Okay, cool. So like there's a level of interest for me. It's just not super like I'm going to say absolutely this is my shit. But it's intriguing enough that I will continue to watch it.
Right. The show has clearly put a tremendous amount of money into the show. Like the money is really on the screen. I think there was a worry that like it wouldn't be able to do much in terms of monsters, both with like Godzilla or otherwise. But there's a lot of really good creature effects in the show. I think Godzilla himself looks really good from what we see in like the first. I think what was it, the first and third episodes? I think. Yeah, really tremendous. A lot of it does feel like someone was like, "Hey, I got these idea for monsters. I don't think we're ever going to use them for the movies." And so like there's like a steady stream of like really cool monsters that are shown throughout the show.
I will say I was very creeped out by the creatures that ended up pulling the grandmother into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just that, ultimately I'm assuming she died. But I'm gonna just go out there and assume that she's dead. And they creeped me out because it made me feel like my skin was crawling.
Mm-hmm.
Like her getting pulled down by these creatures, I was just like, I can feel that on my skin. No, thank you. Like,
yeah, very good creepy crawlies.
which again could play into why I'm just like, this is mid ground for me. This is mid range for me because there are creatures in this that I'm just like, absolutely not. Nope. I don't ever want to see that again.
Mm-hmm.
There are like some spidery looking things, and I'm like, I hate spiders.
Yeah.
I can't stand spiders. And so if you make them bigger, I'm going to hate it even more. Like, they are supposed to be a tiny little size. They should not be any bigger than that.
Yeah. I also really like the performances that Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell are doing, playing the same character.
Yes.
It's really good casting. Like, I know it's like, they're in real life father and son, but like it's just really good.
Yeah, so okay. So I did not realize that Wyatt Russell was who the actor was that played that character. And so like when they showed him young in the flashback, and then they pulled the Kurt Russell in the present, and I was just like, wow, they really found a guy that looks like Kurt Russell. And then like I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's because it's his son.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I had a moment. It's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah. They are calling a little too much attention to the fact that like Kurt Russell probably isn't old enough to play like the older version of Wyatt Russell's character.
Yeah, probably not.
They're like, shouldn't he be like 90? And he's like, I take very good care of myself. So like, there's probably too much of that.
Don't look at it too closely. It's fine. Don't think about it.
I don't know how old Kurt Russell is in real life.
I have it pulled up right now. He is 72 years old.
Okay, yeah. He's definitely not old.
Listen, working for Monarch makes you age less, not more.
I guess. But I will say that I am far more interested in everything that is happening in the past than whatever is happening in the present day.
Yeah, I will say that as well. I'm very intrigued to be like, okay, how did they become a group? How did they get here? Like why does John Goodman have all this information that he threw into the ocean and then didn't die? Like,
I think he did die in the movie.
No, he did, but like not right away.
Right.
Like he thought he was gonna die like right away, and then like whatever. Anyways, but like how did we get to the father of these two people that don't know each other? Knowing about Monarch and potentially being involved in Monarch, and like, yeah, I'm more interested in that than these two kids because I don't care.
Right, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry you found out your dad is a lying piece of shit. That's typical for everybody. Get in line. Or like he had a great relationship with his dad because the dad was around for him, but like she's like, oh, my dad only came around once in a while, and I'm like, yeah, it sucks, girl. Get in line. People have absent fathers every day. No, I just have no connection to those kids. Like they're not even kids, they're like young adults, but like I don't know, I'm more interested in this female doctor figuring out this stuff and showing up these two men. Like that's basically what I'm here for.
Right. Yeah, I'm much more interested in like those characters and that hinted at lovers triangle than like the children. Although I am mildly intrigued by Kiersey Clemens' character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know what her deal is. I want to know more about her. And I like Kurt Russell. I like the way that Kurt Russell's playing the character. But
I do like Kurt Russell's character when like they're sitting in his outdoor like area or whatever. I want to say it was possibly episode 2. And he shows them the ankle monitor and then he just like slices it off his leg and he's like, "All right, we got about X number of minutes until these people show up. Are you coming with me or are you going to let them capture you cuz I'm leaving."
yeah.
Like, and you like get this idea that like, oh, he's going to be an interesting character to keep track of and keep an eye on. But
yeah.
the children of the dead guy, I don't care about them.
No. So let's move on to Doctor Who, season 14, episode 1, The Star Beast, which is the first of 3 David Tennant reprisals as the Doctor. David Tennant and Catherine Tate.
What did you think?
I really liked it.
I did too.
I really liked it. Yeah, it felt very concise and brisk in a very good classic Doctor Who way. I like I really like the Meep. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Meep. Yeah, I love the Meep.
Okay, so I'm a huge Russell T Davies fan. I love his style of writing. I love the way he tells a story. I love his showrunner skills. Like, I just love everything about Russell T Davies era Doctor Who. And this is his first foray coming back as the showrunner. And it shows. Like, it absolutely shows. The writing is strong. You can tell that these are characters we're familiar with, but they've grown and changed since we last saw them. They're not, stagnant, and so like it's great to see 14 come back with the face of David Tennant, because as David Tennant put it in, like, there was this like either an interview he did or like a behind the scenes thing where he talks about, he's like, I'm the 10th Doctor, but like actually I'm the 14th Doctor who has experienced 11, 12, and 13. So I have to change who I am slightly with that same face as the 10th Doctor, but I am more open with my emotions. I'm a little more, willing to show my connection to people. And I'm like, and they did a great way of doing that in a subtle way that was just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just love the return of what? Like the fact that they have no brain cells when they're together. Donna and Doctor have no brain cells. Actually, probably 1 or 2 between them. Like, there's just not a lot going on in their brains when they're together initially. It's always like, what? Are you crazy? Like, they literally, it's just, so good. It was a nice return to these familiar characters that I've loved for years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was very intrigued by how they undid the Donna can't remember the Doctor or she dies element.
Right.
They were like, oh no, well, see, Donna had a child and the child carries half of what Donna had, and like binary, non-binary things. And it was just like, that's so cool that like the daughter's identity like saves her mother. Like, that's so empowering and so cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm one of those people that are just like, yeah. That was awesome.
I saw some people online saying like it's too hokey or it's too like. Have you all? This is Doctor Who. Like, I don't know what else. Like, if this is the the metric we're using to judge Doctor Who, like,
they literally have described Doctor Who has literally described time as a wibbly wobbly timey wimey ball of stuff. Like there is no rhyme or reason to anything, and things aren't going to logically make sense, but they work.
Yeah. Like,
also, the TARDIS got an upgrade.
right. No, the TARDIS got that Disney Plus money.
Which I enjoy seeing 14 react to the inside of the new TARDIS. I'm not sure how I feel about the inside of the new TARDIS yet. Because I'm so used to old TARDIS that I'm like, I don't know. It'll take some getting used to.
Right. I think it's a lot bigger. I don't love the color.
Yeah.
It just feels very bland.
It's white space. That's what it's bothering me. It's so much white space. Like the old TARDIS had so much color and texture to it, and now it's very sleek and modern. And I'm like, no, we don't need sleek and modern. Like, please go back, delete.
No, yeah. And I mean, I wonder if this will be a permanent stay. Cause the amount of money that they put into that new TARDIS.
Only for Donna to spill coffee on it.
Yeah. Well, like, are they just gonna reboot the TARDIS when 15 comes along? Because like that's a lot of money to just waste on a set.
I don't think they will. I think this is like, old face, new story, upgrade, whatever. I think it'll probably be around for a little while.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately. I am interested to find out why the Doctor came back as this face. This episode kind of like touches on that a little bit, because Donna's like, why'd you come back as this version? And even he's questioning it too, like the Doctor's questioning it too. So like it'll be interesting to see if we ever get a definite answer on that.
Right. Yeah, because like that was one of the things I liked about 12's run.
Mm-hmm.
Really questioning, like, why did I choose this face?
Mm-hmm.
This face that I have seen before. Why did I go with this one in particular, and what am I telling myself?
Yeah. Someone had asked me recently, like, to like talk about like top favorite characters of Who, and I'm like, I really love obviously Tennant's Who, but like Capaldi's Who was great as well. Like,
yeah,
Capaldi's Doctor was that. The writing wasn't the strongest in that era because again we had a bit of a few bumps in the road between Davies and Davies, but his personification of the character was so compelling and so dynamic, and they added so much to who the Doctor could be, that when it became Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, there was so much more softness and love to the Doctor.
Yeah.
And now, and like I said, you now see elements of that in the 14th Doctor. It's David Tennant's face, but he has this experience of being more human now, despite being an alien.
Right. Well, like I've always been of the belief that like once you get out of like the first season of a Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
that's when like things really start to click into gear. So like Capaldi in particular, of like once you get past like Capaldi's first season, like that's when like he really starts to shine as the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now like you have Tennant, who's already done multiple seasons and like knows the Doctor, in general, of like his Doctor, and now just like gets to run with that.
Yeah. It's so good.
So good.
It's so good.
And it's and the special is also a gigantic, enormous fuck you to every transphobe.
It really is. Oh man, it was funny. I saw some tweets on the Twitter about there was someone that like tweeted about how like they were so disappointed that who had become super woke, and they used a gif of Capaldi's doctor, and I'm just like, he was extremely woke. You're using the wrong like, not that any of the doctors were not, ahead of their time for their reign, but like of all of them, like the most ahead of their time and the most aware of everything going on in the world was Capaldi's, and it's just like, you missed the mark on that tweet there, bro.
Yeah, like Cabal 12 was like an anarcho-socialist. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know what to tell you about that.
I don't know what to tell you. But like, and I found it really fun seeing the doctor's face when Donna goes Rose, and he's like, Rose. He's like, he was thinking, is that what is my old companion here? Like, what is going on? And then he sees this young woman in front of him and finds out that it's Donna's daughter, and and he's just like, oh my gosh, like Donna named her Rose, and she makes these little these stuffed animals that are all these creatures me and Donna like interacted with, and it's just like, it's such a nice, subtle visionary to everything we've known about these characters that we've experienced with these characters before. And Russell knows what he's doing. Russell knows how to fan service, but not in a way that's over the top and like annoying.
Right. Well, like the interesting thing about like Donna's daughter being named Rose is that like not the dead name, but like that like that wouldn't have been the original name, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so like for it to now be Rose is like so interesting.
Well, and we actually do hear the dead name when they are walking down the sidewalk, but like I honestly didn't register it because I knew it was a dead name. But it's interesting that the episode dived into that a little bit, but it also, instead of it being a negative trans experience, it was like, how can we take this trans character and make it the most positive thing in the world? Oh, I know, their trans identity is the key to saving Donna from dying now that she's remembered who the doctor is.
Right.
And it's like, that is the most beautiful, uplifting, positive thing that could have ever been written for a show like this. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. And just one more thing before we move on. I didn't know this was the way I would feel, but I am actually so happy that we didn't see Wilfred. Because I would not be able to handle that.
I think Wilfred's going to be in the next episode.
Well, because didn't he die before the second one was filmed?
Nope.
Is that not?
So they were filming in 2022, and they did a scene with him before he died.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're still going to see Wilfred.
There's pictures of Tennant as the doctor pushing Wilfred in his wheelchair.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Georgia Tennant recently released a video diary from David where he was talking about how it was May of 2022 and they were filming and trying to keep everything secret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, they filmed this forever ago.
Okay, so I'm still gonna have to see Wilfred one last time before he died.
You're gonna have to see. I think it's like a hot minute scene, okay. and then we probably don't see him again. But yeah, honestly, when they were talking that whole scene where he was like talking about, he was such a great man, and like it's very heavily implied that he's dead, and it's like, this is so beautiful, especially now that the actor has passed on.
Yeah.
Wilfred, we miss you.
Well,
Yeah.
let's move on to our next show, which is For All Mankind, Season 4, Episode 3, The Bear Hug, which I have not caught up on.
I watched it, but again, I only remember vague things about this episode. And not because I don't like this show, because I'm really enjoying this show. It's just I made the mistake of watching it while I was knee deep in a project for work, and I was listening and working at the same time, and so I only probably registered about half of what was going on. But basically, again, I also still don't know all these characters, so that's part of the problem too. But Margot, I think, was captured by Russians, but then she was released by somebody else that wants her to work for them. I'm probably really mucking this up and making it sound like I know nothing about the show, because honestly, I don't know these characters' names. So, like, that's part of my issue. So I'm like, all right, these two Asian people talked to a black guy, and they took over, they did a coup and took over the, is it Helios? Is that right? Or am I thinking of something else? Um, the the company that like funds all the space stuff.
Right.
I forget what the name of that company is, but the two Asian women and a black guy stage a coup and fire the entire board and some of the finance people, and they like take over, and they, it's just so that these two women can do the thing that they want to do on Mars. Which had been turned down by this board like multiple times. And he was just like, well, I have enough shares that I can say fuck you to the board and allow this to happen. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then the character Miles that we were introduced to previously as a guy who was going to Mars in order to provide for his family and keep his wife from leaving him, finds out that he's not actually making that much money on Mars. It's not actually a good financial decision for him. But he can't back out of it because he's on Mars. You know, he can't back out. So he decides to team up with this guy that does stuff on the side for extra money. And so they're trying to steal something from the Koreans without the Koreans knowing they're stealing it. But he gets caught by this guy. But the guy says, oh, don't worry, I need a favor from your new friend. And so he takes the Korean guy back to his friend, and he's like, I told him you could help him get something because this guy gets things. Like, he can get you anything kind of guy. And so the Korean's like, I need you to find my daughter. And he's like, oh no, I can't do that. And like, that's basically like the plot of this episode in the general sense. What I do remember, it was decent. It was a solid episode. I'm interested to see how the shift in the board and like who's in charge of the company is going to affect everything else going on, because that's a big deal. But other than that, like, I feel like the other little stuff is kind of just stuff that's going to build up over time.
Right.
So
Okay.
there you go.
Well,
There's the plot. A very bad summary of the plot.
well, more on For All Mankind later.
I am not earning my salt as an associate editor for a TV review website with my talk of television. But this is the thing. It takes my brain with a television show. It takes my brain half of a season to really remember characters' names. So if I'm being thrown into a show in the 4th season, I am not going to know who anybody is probably till the end of the season of the So you're lucky I understood there was Miles and Margot. Like, you're lucky I got those names. You're lucky. Two Asian women and a black guy. I don't know. Hold on. I will look it up. I'm really interested because I remember looking up the black guy and being like, "Oh, I've seen him on something else," and I figured out what it was that I had seen him on. Dev is the black guy.
Okay.
Dev's the black guy that they were talking to, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's the dude from Twilight." Anyways,
yeah.
But Dev was like, I have power. I can make this happen for you, and then they staged a coup, basically.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next show. NCIS Sydney, season 1, episode 3, Brother in Arms. And I just want to say real quickly about episode 2. No, to the entire snake plot. No, just.
I'm glad I didn't watch it then.
No, just absolutely not.
I've decided that I'm like, when I was looking at it, because with A Murder at the End of the World, I was like, okay, we skipped last week, so I'm gonna have to watch 2 episodes to really truly understand this latest episode, which again I didn't watch either episode. But with NCIS, I was like, do I need to watch the other episode? No, this is a freaking case of the week show. I'm not gonna bother, so I didn't even watch it.
yeah. The entire thing with the second episode was that a guy was bitten by one of the most poisonous snakes in the world, and it's like no, just no.
I am so good, but thanks anyway.
So
I don't like snakes.
No.
And I don't like spiders.
No, I don't do snakes.
Snakes can F all the way off.
Absolutely not. But episode 3, Brother in Arms. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the groove of the show.
I'm enjoying it a little more than I thought I would. Some of it is still a little okay, this is a bit of a stretch saying that there's this much US situations going on in Australia. But that aside, the characters are compelling. They have interesting dynamics. I really like the coroner guy's assistant. She seems awesome.
Yes.
The medical examiner, that's the dude I'm talking about. She's awesome. She's willing to hack into just about anything, and I'm like, girl, I love you.
Yeah, no, I love her self-deprecation in some episode of okay, her so basically every scene of her doing
a farewell party. Is anyone gonna come?
Alright, it's time to go. I guess I'll leave now.
She's like, nobody's gonna come to my farewell party, and I'm just like, all right, girl, I get you. I see you. I'm the same way. I'm like, nobody actually really cares about me. I'm just gonna pretend like people don't, and then I won't be disappointed. But this was actually a very interesting murder plot too. It started off being okay, whatever, an arm in the body of a shark. We've seen this before. But it ended up being so much more convoluted and complicated. I was like, this is full on murder / betrayal / insanity plot. What is this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good murder mystery. It's a good murder case. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I really starting to like the chemistry of the cast and the way they bounce off of each other.
what the scene, one of the scenes that like really still stands out in my brain is the the Australian guy and the American girl go to speak to the Navy to see if they're missing a guy, and the guy and the like Navy commander dude, whatever. Again, I don't know ranks. I don't care. Not important in my life. Doesn't matter. He like gets them to come out of the water, and they say the hooah or whatever, and the Australian guy walks away from their interaction, goes hooah. You guys have like the best sayings, and she's like, "That's all you took from that conversation." It was just like that. Just like he's just so fascinated with American customs, and it's hilarious.
No, that moment of all the Navy SEALs coming out of the water, I was like, no, just no, fuck.
With all the guns pointed too. Like it wasn't just them coming out of the water; they had guns.
Yeah.
It was like, bro, what are you doing under the water with guns?
What we're doing this?
Get the fuck out of here with that.
No.
That was all you took away from that? Yeah, that's all I would have taken away from it too.
Yep.
I'm interested to see all the dynamics like grow and evolve as they get further along. Like the two trying to pretend to be a couple was hilarious because they don't have the couple dynamic, and like they're like, oh no, it'll work, don't worry, they won't suspect a thing, and they suspected a thing in 10.5 seconds. Like,
right, yeah. Yeah, no, it does feel like right now they're like trying out dynamics on the show of like pitting like the top agents together, and then like the other two together, and like Blue and the medical examiner together. It's like, all right, who's vibing really well with each other, and how much like romantic chemistry or not is there. And so it's like, okay, it's like it's a good blend of like experimental storytelling that they're trying to do right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's move on to A Murder at the End of the World, episode 4, Family Secrets, which also extends to episode 3.
You can talk about both.
So this show continues to be quite good. I think it's going down a little bit in my estimation, because the more it becomes obvious that the AI did it. And the show is not shying away from that. It's not doing anything to make me think that the AI didn't do it. You know? Now with like 2 people dead on the show, to the characters dead on the show, and it's like, well, the AI did it, right? Like the AI definitely did it, and it goes to like all of the themes of the show of like technology will not save us. In this case, the exact opposite. Technology might actually kill us. And so the show just isn't doing enough to make me think anything else other than the AI did it. Which isn't necessarily a problem. Like, in my mind, like, the whole purpose of mystery is to be like, you can figure it out for yourself. Like, if you're paying enough attention, you can like sniff out the clues and parse out the mystery, and you can solve it. Like, that's the whole, like, in my mind, that's like the big thing around like Sherlock Holmes stories.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that Sherlock Holmes is a genius. He's just a guy that pays attention really well. And if you paid attention half as much as Sherlock Holmes does, you could also figure out like who did it.
Right.
And so like that's an essential part of like mystery and noirs. But here just like it feels so glaringly obvious who or what did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like there to be something else. Like it's either gonna be billionaire, not Elon Musk, or the AI.
Right.
But it's still a particularly well done show. I think it's another really good series and a piece of work by Britt Marling and company. And I really liked the 4th episode, even though like technically not a lot happens, but it's a good it's kind of a good showcase for the series of going out into like the frozen tundra and like kind of showing off some of like the technology that they have of like cool cars and pressurized suits, and there's some like really high tense sequences in this of like one character getting stuck in their suit and almost like suffocating to death as like they can't get their helmet off. Like it's some of like the best and most thrilling stuff that the show has done so far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good. I really enjoy it. But more on that later. Let's go on to our last show of the week, which is The Buccaneers, Season 1, Episode 6. It's Christmas.
So, I continue to have meh feelings about this show. It's okay. I mean, I love a good period piece as much as the next person. But like, and I feel like maybe this episode was one of the more fun ones. I was intrigued from start to finish. There was enough oomph in it for it to make it worth my while, in my opinion. There was the added bonus of, oh, that fun snow on the ground, Christmassy feel to it. But I just I need these female characters to stop being so stereotypically annoying. Um and maybe I'm just a horrible person for saying that, but like none of these female characters feel strongly fierce and independent, which and maybe that's the point of the writing, I don't know. But like I like a good period piece where yes, there are women that buck with tradition and like stick to their guns about it. Like at the beginning of this series, I truly thought that Nan was going to be that person that like stuck to her guns about, I don't want to get married. I don't need a man to be complete in this life. And yet this series has shown that she has fallen for this Duke guy named Theo, but she also sort of has feelings for this other guy that was really only looking for a wife to save his family's home. And like, it's this stupid little romantic three-way that is getting tired, has already gotten tired. And it's finally been revealed that Nan is an illegitimate heir to the family name that she carries. And it makes it, the whole episode makes it seem like, oh no, this is terrible. She's going to lose everything that she's gained with the Duke and his mother. And the mother dismisses her, but the Duke goes up to her and is like, I still love you, even if you are illegitimate. And I'm like, that would be really great and a wonderful moment if this wasn't the strongest female character we'd had in the series up to this point, because now she's definitely breaking into, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I'll just continue with this whole engagement thing, because when she thought the engagement was off, she was telling the other guy it's a huge relief that I don't have to get married. And I'm like, okay, girl, stick to your guns. Go in there and tell them I don't need to get married to please you people. And then she didn't. And it's just like, ugh. And then her sister and her sister's husband are clearly the villains, but like the sister's being manipulated by I don't like any of these characters. And that's becoming a bigger problem as it goes along. Like, they're okay, but I'm someone that looks for a bit more depth to my characters on a show. And I feel like there's just not a lot of depth to these characters, which is such a disappointment because there's so much potential for there to be depth and complexity to them. And I just feel like there's not. I don't know.
Right. Well,
yeah.
I have nothing to add other than this week I learned that Mia Threepleton, who plays Honoria, is Kate Winslet's daughter.
Wait, that's Kate Winslet's daughter?
Yep.
She plays the lesbian? Oh! Honoria is the secret lesbian. Honoria is the secret lesbian girl. I will say I do kind of like Honoria, and it's not Lizzie, it's Lizzie's little sister. I can't think of Lizzie's sister's name, but they're the ones that have kissed. They've, shown that they care for each other, and now she's decided to get married to a man so that she can stay in Britain to be near Honoria. And Honoria's like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm like, girl, you love her. Just be with her. But that's amazing that that's Kate Winslet's daughter. That's amazing.
Yeah. No, that reminds me of something I heard. I think I saw it on Blue Sky or Twitter recently. Of like, we know that lesbians existed during Regency times because we have the arrest records.
Right.
we know that they exist. We know that they loved, like, that lesbians loved each other during this time because we physically have the records of it.
Right. Yeah. There was one little other thing that, like, maybe I just still haven't quite figured it out. So there's this woman that's, I don't know how many of the episodes of this show you've watched or if any of them, but there's the woman that's been the, like, nursemaid sort of character, nanny, whatever, in the background this whole time. And in this episode, she takes a job with another family in Cornwall and leaves Conchita and Minnie and Conchita's husband, I can't remember his name, behind. And the husband comes to her and he's like, you can't leave, like, Conchita and Minnie will miss you. And she's like, Conchita and Minnie just don't understand, people like Conchita just don't understand us. And I'm just like, I'm confused. Did I miss something? And so, like, that's the other thing about this show is that I feel like it's trying to create, like, mystery-ish sort of elements that don't pan out because I'm like, I'm trying to keep up with everything going on and there's just so much going on.
Right.
There's just too much going on. We got too many stories. Which, again, falls into the same thing we talked about with Ghosts. There's too many characters with too many stories. I don't know where to look.
Right. Makes sense.
It does. I just want it to be Honoria and her little girlfriend that I can't remember the name of, front and center, being their lesbian selves. That's what I want. I don't care about them other girls that are very frivolous and whatever. I generally don't care for female characters unless they're strong and independent, and none of them are. Anyways, moving on.
That's it for this week. Next week we will just be closing out our shows for the end of the year, and then, like I said, a week after that we'll be doing our best TV of the year.
Nice.
So until then, Mads, where can we find you online?
You can find me on, I've given up on Blue Sky. I have an account. I'm never on it. But you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Dorothy NYC 89.
Nice. And I, on the opposite end, I am trying to quit Twitter, and I'm still there at the Drew Koenig, and I'm over more primarily on Blue Sky at Drew Koenig. And I'm also going in lieu of. I really am trying to get away from Twitter. And trying to take the podcast away from Twitter. So a lot of my stuff is going to be up on drewkoenig.substack.com, which is where I hope a lot of the podcast episodes and goat polls will be. If Blue Sky had a poll option, I would do that, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Maybe it will in a new in a update.
Hopefully. There's still a lot of stuff that I wish Blue Sky would add.
Like if it really wants to be able to compete with Twitter, it's got to add more features, and that's part of the reason why I have not been on Blue Sky very often. Like, it's just there's so much more you can do on Twitter.
Yeah, it has good bones. Which is where I'm mostly at with it.
Yeah.
And you can follow the podcast again on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Not Another TV Podcast. You can email us at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, listener submissions, goat recommendations, show suggestions that you have. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe. Until next week, please remember, and I'll say this as many times as I need to, don't go in the ocean, it's none of our business. Goodbye.